Welcome to Wanderlust Wishes, the podcast where we explore the world one destination at a time.
I'm Julie.
And I'm Krystle.
As travel agents with fantastical vacations, we are here to share our passion for travel and help you turn your wanderlust into reality.
From hidden gems to bucket list adventures, join us as we dive into the sights, sounds, and stories of our favorite destinations.
So grab your passport, pack your bags, and let's embark on this journey together.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to episode 103 of Wanderlust Wishes. Today, we're going to talk about rope dropping Epic Universe. So we've had the conversations about rope dropping Magic Kingdom and Epcot the last couple of episodes. And then we've also talked about rope dropping the other two OG Universal Orlando parks. So now we're going to throw Epic Universe into the mix because it's the newest of all the parks and it's just really completely different, and it throws definitely a curveball into your Universal Orlando strategy. We're going to talk through just what you should prioritize, how you go about it. It's been about a year since we talked about it, since it opened last year around this time. I don't remember the exact date, but I know it was in May, and it was this huge big thing, and rope dropping and like ticketing and all of the things were totally different at that point. And so we wanted to bring it back just to be part of our rope drop discussion, but also just to talk about how things have changed a little bit in the last year.
It's crazy how much they've changed either the lands that have been open, the ticket types, the crowds. Like, so much has changed and ever evolving in the last year. So that's kind of why we waited for a minute to talk about Epic, because as soon as we get ready to, it would change again. And I think there's a lot of people who still also don't fully understand how this park is laid out and where it is, because it really doesn't operate like the original parks.
Yeah, and to be honest, with 2027 ticket pricing, like probably coming any day now, that's probably going to change again too. So we'll just update you once we have it.
All right, so let's talk about what Epic Universe actually is. Like we said, it opened a year ago. It's their brand new park. It is separate from Universal Studios Florida and Islands of Adventure. It's not connected to City Walk. It has its own transportation setup and hotel ecosystem. They kind of call it South Campus. So it kind of feels more like a standalone destination park. In distance, it's probably like an Animal Kingdom, Disney Springs situation. Like, yes, it's still a part of their tickets and everything, but you're not walking. This park is where a little bit of background and knowledge about transportation, hotel choice, entry, location matter more than at the other ones. If you'd like to go back and listen, I have an on the go from Halloween Horror Nights where I stayed at one of the hotels. You can go back and listen to it. It doesn't really talk about Epic, but I was staying at one of the hotels.
Yeah, that makes a big difference. And then once you're inside the park, it's also laid out kind of differently than the way the other parks are laid out. So kind of leading into that, Celestial Park is the central hub, and then it has like the different kind of spokes or the different portals that go around Celestial Park. So Celestial Park has gorgeous landscaping, it has a great nighttime atmosphere because of the lights. It does have a ride, which is Stardust Racers, and that's a huge attraction. It's like the dueling racing roller coaster, but then everything really branches off from that space. And then the different portals are Super Nintendo World, you have Dark Universe, you have Wizarding World of Harry Potter, the Ministry of Magic, and then Isle of Berk. So starting with Super Nintendo World, it has Mario Kart, Minecart Madness, Yoshi's Adventure. It has a ton of interactive gameplay, and it is one of the areas that draws the largest crowds first thing. It's pretty intense because you have your theme park people, but then you also have your gamers, people that love, Nintendo. And even if they weren't typically a theme park person that would want to go to Epic Universe already, it's like an additional crowd that's drawn to that specific space.
And you have people who grew up with it that now have adult money that say, let's go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And then you have Dark Universe. It has Monsters Unchained, Curse of the Werewolf. It has the old Hollywood monsters. So it has Frankenstein, werewolf. I think, what's it called? The monster from the Black Lagoon or something. I don't remember exactly what the name of it is, but it has all those types. It has those types of like old Hollywood monsters. It is intentionally a darker, more adult space. And then, of course, you have the third Wizarding World of Harry Potter space, which is a Ministry of Magic. It also has the Fantastical Beasts Parisian theming as well. So you have both of those kind of mixed in together. So you have that 1920s Paris setting for that. Then you have the Battle of the Ministry, which is a huge pull for crowds in that space. If you're going, like you are using early park entry, getting there and rope dropping that is one of the strategies. And it can get really kind of insane levels of wait times. And then last but not least, you have the Isle of Berk. This one's definitely like very family friendly. If you have kids that, grew up on How to Train Your Dragon, they have Hiccup's wing gliders. They have the character experience where you get to meet the dragons or the dragon. And then, I'm sorry, nobody come at me. I think the dragon is the cutest thing ever, but my kids didn't watch this and I did not grow up on it. So I don't have a ton of background on this particular space. So don't yell at me if I don't know the dragon's name. But in general, it's a less stressful overall vibe comparatively to the other areas.
Like I mentioned earlier, where you stay can completely change how stressful this park feels. There are 3 hotels in this area. You have the Helios Grand Hotel, you have Stella Nova and Terra Luna. Helios has a dedicated entrance into Epic Universe. Great for those midday breaks. It's a huge convenience advantage to get in there early, easier rope drop positioning. But Helios is not just a nice hotel. It's actually changing how you tour and your strategy because of the proximity and dedicated access into Celestial Park. Helios might be one of the first hotels in Orlando where proximity alone genuinely changes your park experience. Then you have Stella Nova and Terra Luna. They are more affordable. They're very convenient. Transportation benefits there, just like all the Universal hotels. You can walk from Stella Nova to Epic. It's probably a 10-minute walk. You cannot walk from Terra Luna. They are basically carbon copies of each other, just farther away from each other.
Mm-hmm.
Both great choices. Helios is, I'm going to say it, it's expensive.
It's very expensive.
For
And you
what it
don't get
is.
any perks other than being able to walk into the park.
So there are some pros and cons to these hotels. If you're just going to Epic for one day, I don't know if these hotels are worth it. If you are spending and making your whole vacation around Epic, it's going to be more worth it. So we can talk through those with each person individually because it's going to change depending on what your priorities and needs are. But they are beautiful. They excited that they have more options for Universal.
Yeah, I think, which I get it. Like, I'm obviously, because they built this brand new, like, beautiful space with like this great new park, and then they built the hotels around it. But I think, Krystle kind of hit on this earlier on. You have the Epic Universe area, and then you have the like OG Parks area. And even though Epic Universe, it's not like a crazy far away. It's, like she was saying, it's like from maybe, going kind of like an Animal Kingdom from Magic Kingdom or something. The way their campus works, they're separated. It's not all like one big bubble the way that Disney is. So it still doesn't feel like, at least in my opinion, it doesn't feel super unified yet. And and they may have plans to change that and make that a little bit more cohesive. But at this point, they're still kind of separated. So let's talk about early park admission with Epic Universe. With Epic Universe, the early park entry is an hour before your typical regular park entry for Universal Orlando. So if you are trying to put together a strategy for you have early park entry, and you want to rope drop. And where do you want to go first? So your first option would be Nintendo, Super Nintendo World. Now, like we mentioned before, it is very crowded very quickly. So just keep that in mind that you're going to be with a lot of other people that have the same strategy. They're all like, there's a lot of people going straight there. You want to prioritize Minecart Madness. That's the one that you want to get finished first. And then you would do Mario Kart second. Obviously, this would be your first choice if you were there for this reason. Like you have your kids or you are very excited about the Super Nintendo portion of Epic Universe, and this is a priority for you, then you should definitely make this your first choice. Just know that it gets crowded very quickly, but if you don't go first there, Minecart Madness is extremely difficult to get on later in the day because the wait times continue to be high all day long.
Option 2, we have Battle at the Ministry first. So I would prioritize this if you are there for Harry Potter. It helps eliminate stress later on, but it may consume most of your early advantage. And so basically you just gotta decide, like, are you all in to wait for and waste all of your early entry, which is fine if you want to avoid the stress later. This ride also has a tendency to go down very easily. There's some technology with it that it has to like stop and reset. And so if this is something you would like to get on, go first because it could break down and you might not see it back up the rest of the day. Or if it comes back up, it might have a 6-hour wait.
Your next option is to do Isle of Berk first. And really, this is where you would go if you just really just want to avoid the chaos of the other two areas, because it is. I mean, it's very chaotic. I think also if you have purchased Express Pass for Epic Universe, you can use that on the more high demand rides later, and you just want to get in early in the morning and have a fun morning, not so stressful. This would be a good place to stop. You're going to be able to get a lot of more attractions done in this area without worrying about the Express Pass portion. Like you could just go and not worry about it. It's just much more laid back and more relaxing than the other areas, those other two areas that we just talked through.
I think that people don't realize the chaos and may actually kind of get themselves in trouble because they just try and do what everybody else is doing instead of actually figuring out what works best for their family specifically. So, shameless plug, but that's why we do what we do.
Yeah, we would definitely help you walk through what would be the better solution, because you do have to, like, if you're not using Express Pass, you have to make a choice between Super Nintendo or Minecart Madness and Battle of the Ministry. Whichever one you don't choose, you're going to wait on the other one. Because of the way the park is laid out, you have to come back and, to the central hub and then go to the other area. So it's not necessarily like you can just hop over to the other area really quickly. Like Krystle was saying, like you kind of have to be all in. If this is what you want to do, then this is what you need. This is what you want to do. And if you choose Battle of the Ministry, just pray to the theme park gods that it doesn't go down and you didn't just waste your morning going to rope drop that ride and it goes down.
Now let's chat through if you are staying off property, you do not have early park admission, or you show up late. I would still try and arrive early if you can. I would pick one major target. Don't hesitate. Don't wander. Save your wandering for later. And do not assume that Nintendo will be manageable at regular opening. By regular rope drop, hotel guests may already have a huge head start in Nintendo. So you're just going to be already behind that first wave. So if you don't have early park admission, your goal is not to beat those hotel guests. Your goal is making the smartest first choice. So maybe check out Isle of Berk. Maybe go to Monsters. Like, there are different ways around this. Maybe target waiting in line at Battle of Ministry. If you were there for Harry Potter, like I said, prioritize this. The queue is amazing. So go do it. Curse of the Werewolf is a good one. Hiccup swing gliders, just kind of trying to avoid the bad crowd flow and go against the grain of what everybody else is doing.
And you do have the ability to see, what the wait times are on the app. So you can kind of check that out as well just to see how bad they are. But more than likely, unless it's just your top priority, Super Nintendo World is going to be rough if you don't have early park entry. Okay, so let's talk about the Battle at the Ministry, because this has been a little bit of a controversial ride. Some of it because of the downtime that it has experienced. This was like a whole thing. Whenever the park first opened, it was constant drama over this ride going down and people waiting like 5 hours, insane amount of wait time because they didn't have Express Pass at that point. It would go down, but people wouldn't want to get out of line because they didn't want to have to start over because they'd already been in line for 2 hours. Yeah, it was a whole thing. Now, it doesn't go down as much as it did originally, but you still have to kind of go in with the expectation that that might happen and understand that that's just kind of the way it is if you want to be able to experience it. It is definitely one of the biggest strategic dilemmas because of that. Because if you go in, you're all in, you're going in and that's your first ride, but then it's down and you're like, why did I not go somewhere else? Or you kind of think like, I could have spent this time going to a different ride and experiencing things versus now I'm sitting here waiting, which is extremely frustrating. So you just kind of have to balance that expectation against the ride. In comparison, if you're looking for something that's similar, Rise of the Resistance is a very similar setup as far as it going down and that you may end up not getting to ride it, or you may just have to sit there and wait until it comes back up again. Also, maybe Hagrid's. I mean, Hagrid's doesn't really go down so much, but it was the whole thing with Hagrid's is that there was no Express Pass until recently, and you had to fight everybody else going to Hagrid's. And if you didn't have early park admission, it was always a struggle. And the ride, the wait times never went down.
No, it was like 4, 5, 6 hours for years. At least Battle of the Ministry, most of the queue is indoors.
Yes.
And it's a lot more immersive. Some of Hagrid's is indoors, but there's a lot of it you're snaking outside. So you're standing in the elements and looking at rock walls.
Yeah, that's true. This discussion is more just to like bring up the dilemma more than having an answer because there's not really a good answer. It all depends on your priorities. And if this is something like you're like, I'm going to Epic Universe and I am going to get on this ride, then that's your answer right there.
If you're going to Epic, there are some things people often overlook that you should not. This is not a huge park as far as rides. Like, there are only a handful of rides. So think about the shows. Also take into account how much you're walking. It is set up better than a lot of other parks because you have like your central point in Celestial and you can go back and forth easier. But also take into account this is a new park. They have planted trees and greenery, but it's still young. So it's hot. There's a lot of cement and you're baking. The nighttime atmosphere at this park is really cool. Lots of lights and music and fountains, and they did a really good job considering that there's not always a lot going on in the other two parks during the night. The shows, you have Le Cirque Arcanus and The Untrainable Dragon. They are both amazing, worth the time. These are not necessarily like filler. They're more of like strategic rest points. I like to do shows during mid-afternoon when it's hot, when it's busy. It's a good reset. It's a good mental break. As we're talking about the walking, Epic is actually deceptively large. So you could get yourself in trouble if you're crisscrossing the portals a lot. You're going to be wasting time. And just because it is so new and people don't understand, they're learning it. There's not as much about it. People haven't grown up going there. I feel like it's kind of overstimulating, a lot more overstimulating. So it's just easier to be exhausted and just mentally drained.
I think that's a really good point that you made, that because it's so new, even people that go and literally their job is park strategy and wait times and doing those types of things, everybody's still getting to know the park. And so there's not a lot of quote unquote like tried and true methods like some of the other parks. Even trying to prioritize what your favorite thing is, there's so many new things to find. There's still all these little kind of nooks and crannies that people haven't really had the opportunity to truly experience yet, in order to even say this is the best thing to do here, or this is the best thing to do, at this park or this portal, or whatever. Okay, so just kind of wrapping up, I think overall your rope dropping strategy is really about picking really one of two rides that are going to be your priority for that morning. Or if neither one of them is your priority, then choose to go to Isle of Berk, which is just a lot more relaxing and just not quite so intense. And that's really regardless of whether you have Express Pass or not. With all discussions that we have about rope dropping, if you're not staying on property, you have to kind of set appropriate expectations that you're going to be behind all the other people that have already been in the park for an hour before you, and just understanding that. But still have a similar strategy, that which one is it that I'm going to be all in for, and I'm going to go wait, or I'm going to make the effort to go to this particular ride, and that's what I want to get done first, and then take the rest of the day to really enjoy the IP and the experience of the park itself. Lastly, do you consider Epic already a must-do park? And is it better for fans of these particular IP groups, or for people that just love to do Universal specifically? What do you think? Do you think that it's a must-do?
I think if you've already been to Universal, yes. If you're big into any of these IPs, yes. If you have never done Universal, or you don't really care, I would say do the OG Universal first. Epic is a pretty penny right now. So if you aren't 100% all in, and I think you're going to get very stressed very easily, especially if you're not in the theme park world. I also think it'd be hard with littles. I know Margie's done it with littles and she was on here talking about it, but I just think it depends on the person and your priorities and your family ages. It's not a must do for everybody.
I completely agree with you if you're experiencing Universal Orlando for the first time and you're trying to prioritize, like maybe you just have a couple of days or something, depending on what your vacation looks like. The OG parks really should be the focus first, so you can experience those and then expand to Epic Universe, with the caveat that you're not necessarily looking for a specific IP. But like, even as a Harry Potter fan, if I were giving someone advice on whether you go to Epic Universe versus going to the OG parks, I would 100% recommend the OG parks first, and going and experiencing Hogsmeade and Diagon Alley before going to Ministry of Magic. Even though the battle at the Ministry it's amazing and the queue is amazing, the ride is amazing, but I would just experience those other two first. Thank you so much, everybody, for listening. We hope that you enjoyed this episode as much as we love talking about it. Have a wonderful week, and we will chat with you all next week. Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Wanderlust Wishes.
If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform.
And remember, the world is full of wonders waiting to be explored. Until next time, happy travels.
Bye for now.